throw some credit to FNB and Robo, right? Those guys play with their pants on fire. Those guys play this. We said CBLOL is a stacked region for top lane, domestic and import. And Duran said, I wanted to come to Brazil because top laners play like me. Top laners play aggressive too. It's fun. And with the Tryndamere, like you said, pre-6, you're going to have to be disciplined, but it's about those autos. And if you can get those off, like you said, in extended trades, if you got some help from Croc, he's taken Flash, Ghost here, and Lethal Tempo. Lethal Tempo, pretty strong, still in 12-1 as the teams load onto the Rift here, and Bull has taken Exhaust and Lethal Tempo himself in response.
Wow, okay. You know what? This is what I wanted to see from the top lanes here, 4x4. I'd have been even happier if Bull didn't even take the teleport there, because we talked about the fact that, you know, top lane's a little bit more isolated. Some top laners have taken to just not running TP altogether here and just look for that 1v1 dominance. And for Duran, that Ghost is kind of what you want with that, being able to run down your targets. And for Bull, I don't know if Exhaust is necessarily the better call here. It certainly does great for the dueling against Duran, but keep in mind Tryndamere has a lot of healing as well, especially if we do see some lifesteal come into the kit. I don't know if the Exhaust will be sufficient here. And because of that, because of the way that this Tryndamere doesn't have TP and is probably going to just look to split push the entire game, I want to see Flamengo commit some early resources top lane, specifically Asta as the jungler. But hey, we saw the supports roaming early last game. I would think it'd be not a bad idea to send Bounty looking up top fairly early as well.
They come out swinging, Bull and Duran, as the fandoms come in. Mostra sua torcida. That means show your fandom. And the miners, lacking in that department right now. Not even disrespect to miners. Flamengo, one of the biggest orgs in Brazil and the biggest club in Brazil as far as soccer is concerned. They've got the biggest following of any team in South America by Instagram followers. That includes all the Spanish-speaking countries as well. There's your fun fact for the day, cultural crossover moment, brought to you by 4x4. Anyway, like you said,
we should make that a regular segment.
Bull, I say less, man. That's the kind of stuff I love. Bull, like you said, RMC, he's going to get the advantage in these early levels, and look, so far so good. He's got the push, and you talked about early jungle attention from Asta. Yeah, maybe he's going to have these, resources committed up to him, but it looks like he might be self-sufficient. Croc, on the other hand, he's got a ton of agency as well. That's something we talked about in draft, and Doran's lane management is going to be really, really important here.
Yeah, trying to space your minions perfectly here. It's actually not a bad position for Duran right now. He's got it just outside his turret range, and that's really good gank positioning to set up for Croc. But there's so many wards right now, and Flamengo knows exactly where Croc is. You can see they're looking for the invade already, and you can do this as Xin Zhao. You're a stronger early duelist. Croc has no clue this is happening.
Zilch. Absolutely none. He dropped that ward by his blue buff, and he goes right in. He's going to pop a Scryer's Bloom, but Asta, like you said, just beating the snot out of Croc. He's going to smite to try to stay alive. He calls Duran over, and thank goodness he had that wave in a good spot.
Yeah, well, a good spot to come and reinforce, but did miss some minions there. So Duran probably not happy about having to respond to that, but you do have to protect your jungler a little bit. Tut's even roaming out of the mid lane here, and I love that Flamengo is playing to that early game strength that they had up in the top side. I don't want to see that flag, though. I understand that Asta will have to start going back to the bot side to re-clear bot side, but anytime you can get pressure top, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to have happen. And now, speaking of pressure top, Croc is actually roaming up here, but I don't know if there's any real kill threat this early. Bull still has the exhaust ready to go here, and in these early levels, that's going to be massive. Duran doesn't actually have that much damage just yet.
No, you're praying for crits, right? And early on, the odds of that are really, really low. 6 is that critical power spike, as we've beaten to death at this point. And Bull, I think, respecting that, he knew, okay, Asta just spotted Croc on that side of the jungle. It's been maybe 30 seconds. There's no shot has made his way anywhere else, right? So he's respecting it. He knows that he could show up at a moment's notice, and it would probably be from the lane because the Herald, or rather the Scuttlecrab, has been popped by on the top side Asta. So they've got some control there. And on the bottom side, to boot, Flare and Bounty got a nice push, and they were able to establish a little bit of early vision. Although, we know that's not going towards a dragon. This is Brazil.
No, it's just trying to prevent a gank, right? Because they, like you said, they knew that, hey, top side, the junglers were just there. They're probably coming down, right? That's where else are they going to be at this point? So Flare and Bounty just want to make sure that they're safe for now. And Drop and Hawk, they get the push, they get the ward. Now, I do want to highlight Flare and Bounty did a great job surviving the level 2 burst with next to no damage. Generally, with Leona, with any AD carry, you got to watch out for that level 2, that level 3 when they start to look for those aggressive dives. And Flare and Bounty, you can see from their pots, didn't even take damage. They're still full health. Mana fairly topped up as well. So Flamengo playing to their strengths here and allowing Bull to get the lion's share of resources that we had called for. Netshoes miners, on the other hand, they're okay with this too. They're waiting for Croc to hit level 6. We talk so much about Durun's level 6, but Croc's level 6 is when he gets the resets. That's when his ganks as a Viego start to get really potent.
Yeah, he's going to get absolutely lethal. And on the top lane side of things, now that Durun has hit 6, or not now that he has hit 6, the TP discrepancy is going to be something to keep track of, because Bull took that and he has already burned that. Now, pre-14, like we've talked about, that doesn't really matter. But Durun still has 2 summoners up, and Bull opting for a versatile summoner. But like you said, healing is Croc in Tryndamere's kit. Croc is going to pop the Harrow Path, and Asta has shown up again. Both these top laners level 6, exhaust, pop, and Croc goes down. Durun is surviving just a little bit longer. Thought about going in. He's going to use it defensively and spin the heck out of the way. The needlework almost caught him there on the backside. Bull shot it over the wall. Tuts maybe looking to dive. He's got flash. He's got shockwave. Bull is still very strong. No summoner, maybe no problem. Durun sees him coming. And Annie, a beautifully timed reset. I don't know if he reset, but he came up and bailed out Durun. I think he was toast.
Yeah, it was a good roam when Annie realized that Tuts was already there. And that's one of the things with Orianna. Orianna, not the best mid laner at punishing or looking for dives under turret. So as long as you show anybody else there, pretty much, you can kind of dissuade Tuts from coming in. And you got to feel bad for Durun here, because the call was made, hey, I can handle Bull. We can go for the kill. And Croc just face checks that bush. You cannot do that. Bull has been shoved in this entire, or pardon me, Bull was shoving out this entire time. So Durun never got any vision to help set up that particular gank, and Croc gonna pay the price for it. Still not yet level 6, and Asta gonna keep on power farming, gonna look for that ult first, and Flamengo right now feel like they are the ones with the lead in terms of tempo on the map.
It certainly feels like it. Like you said, it was a bit of a boneheaded face check from Croc. He hit 6 and he was like a bull in a china shop. He didn't want anything to do with anything not named getting Bull's head on a silver platter. He saw his own power spike at level 6. He saw Durun. He had 2 summoners. They said, dude, we can get the chase on. And it was a 3-pronged approach that involved Croc, Durun, and Bull. But guess what, RMC? Asta was still around, and he is extremely strong. Yes, he had both flashes were blown in that fight, but while 6 isn't as big a power spike for a Xin Zhao, he's still so strong. Like you said, that he's got pretty decent base AD. That third attack, right, from the triple strike on the Q. As the Herald is started up here, though, to be fair for Netshoes miners, they're able to reestablish some sort of tempo on this map.
Yeah, and Croc so far, the reason why they feel behind in tempo is largely because Croc has been making plays without the proper setup. So any play that doesn't pan out sets them behind. But because they're always pulling the trigger early without the setup, they're actually faster to the move, and in that particular case, they get there. Bounty's not ready. Bounty was still sitting the bot side, whereas Hawk had already rotated up. So despite the fact that Netshoes miners didn't have the appropriate vision to secure a safe Herald there, they're still able to take it just because of a numbers advantage. And now Hawk is able to roam down, but you saw that Drop was getting bullied in that 2v1 situation. We're starting to see a bit of a goal discrepancy form here because of this, because Annie has to move up to reinforce Croc, because Drop has to 1v2 in some of these situations.
And Drop actually had to use his killer instinct. I mean, had to maybe is a strong word, but he did end up using it. As, like you said, he was just kind of getting bullied. And one thing we haven't seen that we proposed, didn't quite throw our hat completely in the ring on it like we did in last game, is the supports roaming. Hawk and Bounty have kind of stayed glued to their AD carries and been jockeying for vision in that river. Now, you can see on that bot side, it's pretty much lit up red. Flare and Bounty have been doing a good job of getting the push.
Yeah, and they're trying to protect this immobile Jhin, right? And I think Netshoes miners, they weren't looking necessarily to get to that bot side just yet. But now that Hawk is starting to approach that level 6 mark, now is when I think you can really start to look for this. Yes, there's cleanse on Flare, very necessary considering the amount of stuns in this composition here. But even that won't save you from a Leona plus Viego plus Kai'Sa. That particular combo is all about damage, not just about their CC. And actually, awkward reset timings coming through from Flamengo here. Granted, it's CBLOL, they don't care too much about dragons, and it's a Clout Drake, which matters even less. But still, this is not the sort of foresight you want to see from a team who's already warded everything, had full control of this area for the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, and Croc, I think there was a green ward up there that just expired. It was a Flamengo green, and I think Croc just walked over with a sweeper. He said, I'm just going to take this if that's cool with you guys. No? Yes? I don't care. I'm going. Like you said, Brazil, CBLOL doesn't really care about early dragons. One of these teams certainly didn't. The other one said, okay. And it's actually Netshoes miners that have secured the first 2 objectives, and both at around the 10-minute mark. We do not see that very often.
No, and that's absolutely huge for Netshoes miners, considering that their lanes have been suffering a little bit, right? If we did see the Herald go over the way of Flamengo, they can easily crack an early turret, but as it stands right now, Netshoes miners hold all the cards they can answer back. A big trade in the top side here, but no Ignite. I honestly don't feel like there's good kill pressure from Bull here without the Ignite. The exhaust is great defensively, not so great when trying to actually find the kill.
And maybe that would have been enough. Maybe you popped the exhaust and you had that third charge of needlework still at the ready for Bull, but he didn't want to commit all of it. Instead, you see everyone showing up to the bottom side for Flamengo now. And they're able to walk away with some camps, to be sure. Because, and to circle back to something we were saying before, we said that Netshoes' comp is something that has a lot of agency and firepower. And they want to be on the front foot, especially on that top side. And they sort of have been, but there's a difference between, like you said, having a lot of agency and having winning lanes. Because like you said, both these things have been true so far for Netshoes. Their lanes have been suffering a little bit. And so it is a little surprising that Croc has been able to be as, shall we say, flippant in the jungle as he has been. Now, yes, he had that one really boneheaded face check up top, but other than that, he's taken 2 neutral objectives.
Yeah, and especially when you consider that Asa and the rest of Flamengo have done a great job leveraging their winning lanes here to constantly invade, and yet Croc isn't really too far behind. Yes, behind in CS, but not experienced, and now they might look to try and make a play. Remember that Netshoes miners has a dive composition. They're more than happy to go under turrets when their outs are up and available. So anytime they drop a Herald, Flamengo has to respect that. You can see how cautiously they're playing, and it's the right call. Because if you're sloppy around it, if you decide that, hey, Herald's just going to charge and they're not going to dive us, Netshoes miners will prove you wrong.
They have a lot of go buttons, and the ult from Annie gets a lot easier to land. Like you said, once you go in, it's curtains. Hawk has so much CC, Croc has so much CC, and if you can get even anything close to that, Annie's going to get in there with the fears, and Doran is just going to beat the living snot out of you. Now, he is down 10 CS up in this top lane, and a kill to boot by Bull. And you're seeing it. I mean, usually Take Conqueror does. Bull able to pop his own heal, like you said. But both these 1v1s have come out just this little bit short. But I don't think Bull is too fussed about that, because as a Tryndamere, this is a rough spot to be in.
I mean, I'd actually say that Duran's the one who's probably more than happy with the way these trades are going right now, because Bull is burning through the entire mana pool to just match the shove and the threat that Duran has here. Whereas Tryndamere, and this is why I hate Tryndamere, non-interactive champion, doesn't have mana pool. He can just shove all day long, build up that rage bar, heal back up, and you can see that Bull will have to burn the TP pretty much to match here. So the TP almost becomes a lane spell to just constantly deal with the push pressure from this Tryndamere. And for Duran, there's not a lot of kill threat either. We touched on the fact that, hey, exhaust, not TP. On the other hand, though, Duran, you can see, is losing a lot of these trades early against this lethal tempo Gwen. And that's basically because, as a Tryndamere, you need to play around the snip. If snip sips out, you win the fight. If snip sips down, you're probably going to lose that trade, and then you just kind of sit back, just keep healing back up, and then burning everything. Oh, didn't have to use TP. That's actually huge. We're past 14 minutes. That is an unleashed teleport.
So he's got the ability to go pretty much anywhere. Second Herald is up. Croc almost poked it down with his Q. The cannon wave is pushed into the mid lane, so Annie might be a little bit late to the fight. little more vision control do the side of Netshoes Miners have. In
Oh.
goes Hawk, but the Solar Flare goes down. A lot of CC coming down. There's a Twisted Advance. In goes Annie. He's got level 11 and a big old shield to boot. Twisted Advance is down. It's not enough. Disengage Netshoes Miners. Dive comp for sure. Asta's going to get a kill on the way out, but Netshoes run over Flamengo in that fight.
Once again, the Orianna's really not working out here 4x4. Flamengo, Tut, no shockwave. Got bursted down way too quickly there to be able to set that up. And Netshoes Miners on open ground. We talk about dive comms going under turrets, but if anything, open ground fights are easier for them because they don't even have to worry about the turrets. And we saw the grasping roots come through from Bounty. Wasn't sufficient to disengage them there. It has to be done further, safer away, and Flamengo need to make sure they don't clump. They lose the Herald, but they've still got a shot at this Dragon if they want to go for it. Big ults are still up, Shockwave still there, Curtain Call still there.
Yeah, like you said, Tuts didn't get the Shockwave off, but he does have it for an impending fight potentially. And Dorun, he has to take the scenic route. No TP for this top laner. Bull still does have his. Some wards coming down in the bottom side river. That's the next objective to fight over. Second dragon at 15 minutes. Shockwave is going to yank Annie back. Comet going to land as well, or rather Airy, excuse me. But now Croc and Hawk maybe looking to redeem, salvage Annie. And now the Solar Flare going in, and Annie says, you thought I was finished? Nah, wait a minute. And the Everfrost going to help Dorun secure the kill. Taking to get a Croc, excuse me, going to get a reset off that as well.
Yeah, the execute coming through. And unfortunately for Bounty, as a Maokai, you're not tanky. When you look at tanky engage supports, Nautilus has a shield. Alistar has the Unbreakable Will. Leona has Eclipse. What does Maokai have? Nothing. Nothing at all for tankiness here. So you can't be getting caught out like that. Not only do they lose all priority on Dragon, they're going to lose mid lane turret to Herald. And there's no good response that Flamengo can pull out. The Shockwave was used already. So if anything, Netshoes, I was going to say, I'm wondering if they're going to just use the Dragon as bait to try and draw Flamengo in, look for another fight. They might do it anyways here.
Let's see. Yeah, I think instead, Flamengo's going to tell Netshoes, thank you for the leash. And Netshoes says, you know what? Fair enough. They already got their hands on the first Drake. They got 2 Heralds, which weren't capitalized on in an exceptional way, but Netshoes ahead by 2 kills, 1 tower, and 500 gold. So not a stranglehold by any means, but like you said, these quote-unquote disengages that Flamengo have at their disposal, not that it was a central part of their comp, but they really haven't been able to be used well. And while I do think that is a slight on Flamengo, I give a lot more credit to Netshoes because when they see an opening, they go. Their fights are overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a fair statement to make. I'm still a little bit puzzled about why that Dragon went the way it did, but it doesn't matter. They're looking to try and take down this bot lane turret. Croc is reinforcing, but it's a 4v3 right now, and Flamengo, this is your opportunity to try and punish.
Great defensive Solar Flare by Hawk, and the Twisted Advance is going to catch him, but no other ultimates burned. It was just a Twisted Advance by Bounty, or Nature's Grasp, excuse me, the other one. But Flare still has everything. They were able to get away with that Dragon. Asta and Bull didn't commit anything too much there. They got their tower, and now they are going to skedaddle.
Yeah, that was the issue with Maokai, right? He's not an engage support. He's a disengage support. The Nature's Grass there simply isn't a good enough tool to try and catch people. And you know what? It's fine. You get the turret. That's all you're really looking for there. You're trying to answer back on the board. And now, Netshoes Miners, their bot lane is unlocked to start roaming. Their mid lane is unlocked to start roaming with these turrets going down. I want to start seeing Netshoes Miners group up and look for these dives. It's what they've drafted for here. Time to execute.
Well, that's certainly what they're going to try to do here. Croc throws out the Herald Path, but Tuts doesn't even need it to be unleashed. He's got it on a lower cooldown, though, so he's going to use it to bail out Bull. I think that fight would have been fine. That dive probably would have gone on okay, but as they say, Gwen is immune. Oh, never mind. Here goes Annie going right over the wall. They had no idea. They thought that Netshoes bailed out of the jungle completely, and now the go button is the only thing on the board for Netshoes. Choo-choo, everybody. Here come the miners.
I feel like Netshoes at this point, choo-choo you say, and this nation is just Bounty every time. Oh, Tuts? Does he?
Oh, Solar, okay. Tut's able to take down Hawk, but not done just yet. Gwen is immune. Here comes the curtain call, and Netshoes Miners might have overstayed their welcome. Just a big Gale forcing in to lock up another one. ADC on ADC crime, and a big heckin' shutdown over to Bull.
And that I credit to Tuts. Playing that really well in the mid lane, the moment they engaged, Tuts bought enough time and more importantly, dragged them between two turrets, allowing Flare and Bull to come through and pincer to find kills off the back end to keep the game even. Because if they had not found that, that would have been another turret going down, kills going over to Netshoes miners. And we said, dive compositions, when they get ahead, they snowball incredibly hard. So it's critical that Flamengo right now keep within touching distance in firing range of Netshoes miners here, and they still have the tools to do it. We've not seen the big wombo combo come through yet. The shockwave still hasn't hit multiple members, and until I see that, I don't really know if Flamengo have a chance. If they do land a 3-4-man shockwave and still lose the fight, that's the point, you know, where Netshoes is way too strong.
Ult going wide, late flash there from Flare, but better safe than sorry, I suppose. Maybe thought there was going to be some follow-up. But the CDR coming in is helping Annie pull off those ultimates with impunity. And RMC, I said choo-choo, here come the miners, was I believe the terminology I used. And
yes,
that to me is what I'm afraid of right now. And the game feels like it's hanging on a knife's edge, because that was massive. A shutdown over to Bull. He's on 2 items. Meanwhile, Dorun is kind of piecing together the rest of his build. And they just bit off more than they could chew, Netshoes miners. And right now, like you said, the team fight, the wombo combo, fighting around objectives is a lot easier for Flamengo. And if they stub the bleeding just now, that's their way back in.
Yeah, at least on paper, right? That's how the composition should work. We've not actually seen Flamengo, though, win a team fight, really. They've been able to answer back under turrets, but they need to be able to do that outside of turrets. And you've got a ball delivery system. You've actually got multiple. We touched on the fact that Bounty's Maokai, not a good engaged support in terms of using that ultimate. But the Twisted Advance with the ball on you into the shockwave, that is a potential way of kicking off these fights. Or Asta being the more conventional ball delivery system here, ball to clean up, and Flare just getting pot shots wherever they can. That is the ideal game plan from Flamengo. The question is, can they actually execute it, especially when Netshoes miners is splitting up, diving your backline? Both Annie and Drop have shown that they can turn on anybody at a moment's notice. Now Flamengo, they're grouped up. This is their best shot.
Doran looking for a flank, but the fight is going away from him. Hawk is going to get lit up. People survive just a little bit longer. Exhaust comes down on him as well. It's a lot of damage coming over from Netshoes. Finally, Doran gets to the fight, and boy, does he have an impact. Undying Rage coming through as well. Needlework be damned. It's one for Drop as well. A shutdown for him. Netshoes miners wipe him off the map. It was their opportunity, RMC. Flamengo had it, and Netshoes collapsed.
Yeah, and now Flamengo don't have it, and Netshoes miners is about to get it being Baron here. There's nobody left on Flamengo to try and stop this. Teleport is available from Tuts, but no shockwave. What are you going to do? They don't have enough health. Croc only finally getting there, but they will be able to get this on everybody. Nobody should die here. And 4x4, before that fight, I already said, until we see the shockwave come through from Flamengo, I don't know that Netshoes miners really has this game in the bag. Now, we did see it, and we saw the solar flare from Hawk completely whiff as well. It didn't catch anybody on the stun portion. It barely tagged some people for slows, and Netshoes miners just off the chaos that Annie can cause going in with that ultimate. The fear, the AoE fear across 3-4 members in that fight. Netshoes miners are firmly in the driver's seat, and unless they mess up, Flamengo are going to struggle to find anything but individual picks.
The chain CC was devastating. The AoE fear came down, and that feels like what you want. I mean, Tuts is probably sitting there like, man, if I had that, I'd probably be able to hit a better shockwave or two. My goodness. But it didn't matter. And with that chain CC, of course, Doran was able to pop his ghost, get his behind over to the fight in a hurry. And now here comes the split pushing, right? And then he just beat the snot out of everyone else. And a lot of other people got kills as well. Bull to avoid the business end of the solar flare, I think because Gwen is immune. Deadly Flourish coming out as well. Bounty doesn't have flash, doesn't have exhaust, but he does have Nature's Grasp. And a lot of damage coming out from Annie. It's not super long range poke, but man, over the wall, Drop doing his part for the siege as well. And the Baroned up cannon minions are taking care of the rest. The push is on for Netshoes.
Yeah, and this is terrifying for Flamengo. You can see they're struggling to even wave clear. And normally when you've got something like an Orianna, wave clear is not an issue. You just throw the ball out there. But Drop and Annie, anytime they're long range poke kind of lands there, there's the threat they engage. And so when you get chunked to about 60% health, you've got to be terrified that you're just going to go ahead and dive the back line. Drop already has the stopwatch still sitting in inventory here, ready and waiting to go. Granted, Annie's has already been used, but if Annie goes in, you can bet your bottom dollar the rest of Netshoes Miners is going to go in as well, and Croc with the resets as well. One kill is all they need for the snowball, for the train, as you like to put it, to start running there.
Well, he's just so gosh darn strong, too. 6 kills to his name. The total gold graphs on the left there, you see the lead the Netshoes have accrued. Wow. Hawk looking to maybe try something now. Flamengo, right? They had everybody up there, but Dorun was able to stay just out of range, and Netshoes got their behinds up there. They still got the Baron buff for another 30 seconds, and they've accrued 2,000 gold off it. Bull has TP, so he's on the other side of the map. If it goes sideways, he can get his way up there, but you're kind of fishing for scraps right now, but Bull doing what he can on the other side of the map.
Yeah, and this is the one sort of saving grace right now for Flamengo that they have is the teleport mismatch. Granted, the Ghost going to have much more effectiveness in the rundowns and in the lane, but Bull having the TP is allowing him to split push here and draw off Doran and always be a step ahead as well, get some turrets. That advantage, though, only lasts as long as the outer turrets and maybe the inner turrets if you're lucky there. Once you hit the base turrets, Bull has to overextend incredibly to be able to get that. Croc actually stole that away from Asa as well. Insult to injury here. Netshoes Miners, they refuse to give Flamengo anything to work with.
I'll give credit where credit is due. You heard me. I was dubious that Netshoes would come out of the gates swinging like this, but credit to Croc especially. He has been go, go, go. He has picked up right where he left off at the end of Split 2 last year. And like in any game of League of Legends, it's about execution. And we said that Netshoes would have to do this to make good on their plan. They haven't even given Flamengo an opportunity to execute, really. They've just been so overwhelming.
Yeah, and Flamengo, even when they tried to manufacture their own opportunities, definitely didn't pan out. So they're looking for picks here, and the first step of that has to be vision to come through, defensive vision. But Netshoes have done a great job nullifying that. You're seeing the pinks come out here. They're looking to try and pinch, and for Tuts, for Bounty, this turret is not safe for you. We've seen the dive start to come through. They need to call more and more and more and more members up here. Shockwave lands, but great. What else can you do?
There's the stopwatch. Asta not going to continue the chase here. Annie flashing out immediately. So is Hawk, but flashing forward is Bounty. And Croc with the disengage as well. So a lot of summoners, a lot of flashes blown, a lot of ultimates, but nothing to do yet. And you see, right? Yes, Bull can TP at any point, but Doran's keeping him occupied on that side of the map.
Yeah, and Flamengo doesn't even really have scaling on their side because Bull will scale up incredibly, so will Doran, right? Mid lane, Tuts. The later the game goes, of course, the riskier it is with an Orianna, and that a single shockwave means a lot more, and you can potentially burst out the carries a lot harder. But I'm looking at how the fights have been going, and the poke has just been too strong from Annie and drops, and as time goes up, the damage, the poke from this poke is going up as well for Annie and drops. So Flamengo, great that you're surviving, but you need to get ahead. And soon, in a minute's time, Baron comes back up. Netshoes can kind of force you to come there where you don't have the safety of your turrets. And what I want to see from Netshoes in a minute's time, or even the next 30 seconds, is clearing out the vision. I don't actually want them to fight at Baron. I want them to try and catch Flamengo in rotation to Baron, because that's when they're probably not going to be all grouped up and not ready for you to just dive them.
Yeah, and given that they were just in the red side, Flamengo's top side jungle, you would want to see that even more. Now, once they exit, Flamengo reestablished vision of their own, and it wasn't the cleanest exit because Flamengo almost pulled the trigger on that top side and almost punished Netshoes for, again, a little bit of an overstay. We saw that once, but we haven't really seen it since from Netshoes. So the discipline has been there for the most part, as the objectives are spawning here shortly. Like you said, maybe it's not about fighting for a Baron right now. Maybe it's about getting a pick. And both these sides are looking for picks, but Flamengo only because they're behind. That's not what that comp wants to do. They're forced into that situation. Whereas Netshoes, they see an opening, they smell blood.
Yeah, and you know, I love that you bring up the fact that Netshoes is disciplined right now, because that's not a word I would have applied to Croc at all.
No.
Last split there. Oh, Doran? He used
a
his
little bit
ult.
of trouble. Yeah, he had to use the ult to get out of there, and Croc thought about maybe going in, but he might not want to join the party. He has to go over the wall. The bounty comes with him. Great twisted advance by the Maokai. The support for Flamengo coming up big, but is it enough? The rest of the teams have joined up. Annie is dealing so much damage, and a reset for Croc as well. He survived, and what's he going to do with it? Shockwave not going to land as well. Just spinning out of the way. Dora didn't even have to use Flash. It has not been a good day for Oriana's in Brazil today, RMC.
No, Tuts wearing the sombrero there, and that is horrific to watch, especially when Doran already blew the ultimate, the Undying Rage. He was vulnerable, he was killable, and they could not capitalize. Now, I do have to highlight Annie, because I'm definitely one of those people who didn't think too much of Annie after last split, but this Vex game 2-0-11 does not tell the full story. Annie went in and pretty much solo popped Bull there on the back end of things, absolutely disrupting the back line, and at this point, Annie can be the primary engage for Netshoes Miners. There's enough damage here to be able to do that. They're going to be able to secure themselves the Dragon and the Baron now. They're at Soul Point, and Netshoes Miners, this is their second Baron. There's not a lot left for Flamengo to defend. You crack the base on this push, and the game's pretty much over.
You've taken care of the tier 2s in 2 of the 3 lanes as well. You've got Baron buff. You want to get some inhibs out of this, like you were saying. Man, what a fight for Netshoes Miners. That was beautiful, and it started out looking like it was going to be a disaster. Like you said, Doran didn't have his ultimate. Croc was almost in really big trouble, had to use Heartbreaker immediately to escape, and Bounty caught up with him. But the stopwatch was great. It bought his team enough time, and then the rest of Netshoes Miners did what they do best and just ran them over. And now Annie feeling himself. Here comes the big bad book.
Oh man, he deserves it at this point. He hasn't died a single time, so you know what? It's perfect. He's got Zhonya's as well, so I don't expect to see Annie die here. And the amount of time, 2.5 seconds of stasis, is more than enough time for the rest of Netshoes Miners to come in. They're looking here.
What? Oh, there goes dropping with the killer instinct. The Acadian Rain doesn't do a lot. There's the flash. There's the oh my gosh, Annie doing it all. A killing spree for drop. Doran in the front line. He's got his ult this time. Tower be damned. When being immune be damned. He spins out of tower range. The needlework is going to go wide, and all Tuts can do is throw the ball out in vain. That one was riskier, but they again just all heads forward for Netshoes.
Yeah, this time they're far ahead enough that the dive works here. And I just have massive questions. Bull actually even teleported, so that was a 5v4 rundown on their end. Maybe if Bull was there, they could have at least threatened Annie. Drop, maybe tried to fight and duel out Dorun a little bit, but in a 4v5 situation like that, they got absolutely slaughtered. The Nature's Grasp just really isn't working out for Bounty here. I don't hate Maokai. In fact, I think it was a great pick. It's just not enough. And right here, watch Bull. The base completes, and now they're stuck in a really bad position. Doran's coming from a side angle, so Nature's Grasp slows everybody but Doran and Annie. It actually does catch Annie, but Doran getting in was the critical one.
Yeah, and again, it's just one thing after another with the amount of CC, right? Doesn't have to worry, does Annie, about landing the Shadow Surge or the Mistral Bolt or any of that, because whether it's Doran just acting as like a form of a gravity well himself, when he gets, like you said, he was critical because he gets up in everybody's business. They've got to focus on him, right? All their attention is there. And then here comes Hawk, here comes Drop. And he already blew his ult really early as well. There was no gap closer for him. There didn't need to be. Hawk and Annie threw it down. And yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that Bull, he bailed early on that fight. I hesitate to even say fight because it wasn't really supposed to be. And I don't even know if Netshoes, as far as their vision, saw that Bull had backed. They were just like, well, he's not here. And like you said, they're far ahead enough to where they said, if he's not immediately here, we can jump on these suckers. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, Netshoes Miners has been playing this game half blind. Like their vision has been quite weak and flawed for the most part. So they don't see a lot of these plays happening, but they're so far ahead and their comp is so strong right now that they don't need to see to be able to smack down Flamengo there. And they would have picked that fight 5v5 anyways if they thought they could get the catch. It just made it so much easier that it wasn't. And now you're seeing this even as Baron expires, they're still pushing in. I said if they crack the base on this push, the game's pretty much won. They cracked 2 inhibitors and now they get to go back, spend all their gold, come back out, pick up the soul, and just push in. You don't even need to take the top side anymore. You can just push in under Nexus turrets. They dove 1 turret before, came out all healthy. They can dive 2 turrets this time with Infernal Soul and gold in their pockets.
The GA is going to come in here soon for Doran as well. He's got that stopwatch. I imagine he throws that into its final form as soon as he can. 328 CS for the Netshoes Miners top laner, but give credit where credit is due. Bull at 338. Seems like it's too little too late. Asta hasn't had exactly the impact he's wanted to, but I give tremendous credit to Netshoes Miners this game. What a debut for Doran. What a statement from Croc as well. A disappointing end of the year on Renzga for him. And Annie, great debut performance when, rightfully so, there were a lot of question marks raised about his ability to be effective for this Netshoes Miners team.
Yeah, and for Flamengo here, they already taken so much poke.
Yeah, the poke is tremendous. It's just too much. What? Annie hasn't even blown his flash drop. That's to pop the stopwatch. Doran was in trouble, but he is a Tryndamere. It doesn't matter how much trouble he's in. He's able to get out of the way. Another kill secured. Bing, bang, bong. That's how they drew it up. Netshoes Miners going to roll to a victory here in this one.
Yep, and that's a wrap right here. 4x4. Really well cleanly played by Netshoes Miners. You're praising all of them. And for Flamengo, I mean, yeah, Doran looked like he kind of got low, but it was because the shockwave from Tuts got blown on a Tryndamere. And if you're doing that to a Tryndamere, the fight's already won. The Tryndamere's done his job because you're not going to kill him with a shockwave there. Immaculate play. I know that